Hi, I'm Charlie Collins, and this is the Donegal Sport Hub Donegal Daily Championship Podcast, brought to you in association with Kelly Centra, multi-award-winning store, mountaintop Letterkenny, providing 24-hour service, 7 days a week. And many thanks to Kelly Centra here at the Mountaintop once again for their support on our Donegal Daily, Donegal Sport Hub Championship podcast. And we're well into the championship now. We're almost down to the last two in each competition with just a little bit of playing on Wednesday night to decide who's going to be in the intermediate final, but more about that later on. Chris McNulty, of course, left out of the team last year, made a big effort in training this week, and John Haran almost gave him the go-ahead, but he just didn't make it on Thursday night, so we're going to have to leave him out this week again. Delighted to say that he's been replaced. We had Michael Murphy here last week. We have another of Donegal's best ever full forwards with us. 20 years, would you believe, since he scored 14 points in the county final. It's still a record. Brendan Devenney, delighted to have you. Welcome.
Thanks very much, Charlie.
Good to have you in. Now, guys, we're going to start with the senior championship. John, you got it right. Your head said Unions. Sorry, your heart said Unions. Your head said Glenties, and you thought Gweedore would take Kilcar. That's the way it panned out. Plenty of things happening in between the starts of games and the ends of games for that to happen, because could have went either way, perhaps, both of them.
Both of them, Charlie. Supposed to start off with the St John's Niamh Conall game, Charlie. I thought it would be close, but I thought, looking at Glenty's record over Unions this last few years and that bit more experience they have in this kind of new emerging St John's team, I thought it'd be maybe a wee bit much to ask them to beat Niamh Conall in a semi-final. It would have been a big result and a big fill-up for the St John's team if they had got to that final, but it didn't happen, Charlie. It was a good, entertaining game, Charlie. It was end to end. The first 10 minutes were brilliant. There was three each. There was,
that's right.
High quality scores and good fast play, and there was no blanket defence at that stage. Then, Unions went 6-4 up, and they were going well, Charlie, and playing some nice football. And Rory was effective at full forward, and we were getting a lot of the breaks, and we were cleaning up. But then we kind of just went out of it, and Glenties took control, Charlie, and they got 4 points in a row, and they went 8-4 up or 8-6 up.
Yeah.
And St John's last score, I think, was in the 16th minute of that first half, and we had plenty of ball, Charlie. Just a few wides. Rory kicked a couple up.
Few bad options taken.
Yeah, and Conor O'Donnell made a great run and just put it into the goalkeeper's hands, and a few wee things, just didn't go our way. And half time came then, Charlie, and Glenties got a good start to the second half. They went 2 more up, so that put them, they really got 6 points in a row.
10-6 at that stage.
10-6, and then, in fairness to Brian Mackey, came up with a good point to get Unions going, and we got fortunate probably with a lucky goal, but it gave us great momentum, and we went 2 up then. Niall got a great point, and Keelan Ward got a great point, and we've been looking for Keelan to do more of that there, and you always know that he has it in him. Like, he took on 3 or 4 men and burnt them.
Great score, yeah.
And then we were going well, Charlie, but listen, Glenties are an experienced team, Charlie, and they seem to get a grip again around the middle of the field, and Leo caught a big ball, and I think Anthony or Cian Thompson caught a big ball, and they got a couple of maybe lucky breaks, maybe from their point of view, a couple of high balls, and Sean Patton broke out, and they seemed to get on to them quicker, and they got 2 points from 2 of them situations, and we just couldn't seem to get it back, Charlie. And Charlie, it was a very close game. There was nothing in it. I don't think St John's can have any real complaints about anything. It was there for us to win, Charlie, and we just didn't do it. But the boys tried hard, and one of the things people are, in the postmortems, Charlie, and everyone has an opinion, we were probably slow to make changes. We only made one change, and that was in the 60th minute. We substituted young Sean Ryan for Peter McAnuff, and I suppose, Charlie, with Conall Dunn's contribution down in the Brights when it was in the melting pot, you thought it was crying out to give Conall 15 minutes there, even though the game was still there and we weren't out of it and we weren't chasing it. But you still make, no one doesn't make changes. Dublin, everyone makes changes, Charlie.
Well, that's the thing, John, at the point I want to make to you and to the other lads. All teams at club and county level make changes now. I was commentating in that game, and I must have said 4 or 5 times, I'm surprised St Unions aren't making changes, because it was evident, I think, to everybody there was a couple of lads that had given everything they could. Absolutely. And you weren't going to get much more out of them in the last 10 minutes or so. Yeah. Were you surprised, Brendan, that they didn't make changes or more changes?
I think, Tom, it was a 1-point game. we start to look at analysing, making Niamh Conall, the victors, what did Unions do wrong? I would differentiate, be a wee bit different from John. I think the goal unhinged Niamh Conall. I think they for me, we're going to control the game. We had a good start. We never scored for half an hour.
Yeah.
Our feelings come back. I know we had 6 under-20s starting in the team, and I don't want to be too hard on Unions, but at the end of the day, there's a difference between league football and championship football and knockout, and this Unions team desperately needed to get into a final. Neve Connell didn't. They needed to win a final, but this was a big day for Unions, because if this team's going to progress, they needed to get into a final, and people are saying, would they have enough in the final? They're going up against a team I think that they could have given a game to. I think Goodore would have rather Neve Connell than us, but that's one for another day. But I think for this Unions team now, it's bite, it's intensity. And if you look at Neve Connell, they were an old war horse of a team, and when the game needed to be controlled and won, they did it. And outside Niall of O'Donnell, we just didn't have enough punch. And how Unions are going to get around that, it's not that, we don't rough teams up. Unions always produce a kind of cultured, nice type of player, and we're never going to produce those kind of tough players that we need, that you probably see in the likes of Goodore.
Yeah.
But how you get around that is intent, and how you tackle and how you approach a game. And for me, looking at it, Unions are just somewhere between a good league team and a championship team. They gotta move it on next year. It's a big year next year, I think, for this team, for these young lads, because they got to take the next step and really play championship football. And I think that was the wee bite was missing to go and win that game.
Francie, a missed opportunity for St Unions, given the tightness of it and where they found themselves, as John said, 2 up after that key period in the game. Should they have pushed on from there?
Yeah, listen, I think they did. I think they should have pushed on, all right. But listen, but I think come back to, like Brendan's alluding to there, about championship and league and stuff like that there. But I think if you boils down to Neve Connell wanted it more than St Unions, and Neve Connell's experience on the day, on a tight game, if St Unions would have got in front, out in front maybe by 3 or 4 points, I think maybe St Unions coming on to win it, but they didn't get that opportunity.
They had an opportunity to get out there and they didn't take it.
They didn't take it. That's what I'm coming to.
Yeah.
And they didn't take that. So listen, Neve Connell then got their experience. Like their last 2 scores came from Leo McClune just running at Unions and getting hauled down. You know what I mean? Just pure, just doggedness.
Yeah.
And the second score then, like Kieran Thompson caught a kick out and they got the score off that as well. Like Unions weren't able to do that on the day. And I thought maybe on Sean Patton's kickouts, I was chatting the day before about it. I think his kickouts weren't as good as on the day, it could have been, and I think that was kind of a downfall for St Unions too, whether that was I think a key they had above any of the 4 teams left, where they had a good goalkeeper and goals, and I think his kickouts weren't as good as it could have been, and that was a platform Glenty's built on, where some of their scores came off the kickout, off Unions kickout, and
And what about the lack of substitutions? I mean, you've got Connell Dunn on the bench, you've got Sean McVeigh on the bench, you've got Jimmy Brennan on the bench, guys that maybe they'll come on and did nothing, but we'll never know now. It seems so strange, Francie, for a team in a semi-final, a tough semi-final, to only make 1 change, and as John says, in the 60th minute.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it myself, and I was just, I suppose it's a personal thing, but I think you need subs, bring something. Some man comes on, it changes. Like, for example, I was picking up Brendan and someone else comes running on, and who comes picking him up and stuff like that there.
Yeah.
Could cause a bit of controversy with that there. But I think, the game was so tight, it was probably hard to know who to bring off. But and the same thing as John alluded to there, but Connell Dunn, like an experienced player, they needed a score. He was someone to bring on. He did it in the bridge, Whites, and he couldn't do it, just not single him out, but maybe another 2 players bring on fresh bodies, brings fresh ideas to it as well, and I just thought, maybe missed a trick by not bringing on a sub. And 60th minute, with 3 minutes of stoppage time left, it wasn't much time for someone to come on and make an impact,
They've been very loyal to the player, the 15 that started, John, because they've nearly picked the same 15 for every game. I know Rory was suspended for the quarter-final, but apart from that, the management stayed very loyal.
They did, Charlie, and I would know just from listening to getting bits and pieces that Richard Thornton's philosophy would have been that players had to earn their place this year. He would have been involved with Maxie last year, and I think he might have. That's what I'm hearing, that Maxie might have been loyal to too many other players, and it was easy for them to get their place on the team, and they might have been training or whatever reasons, but Maxie was loyal to them, and I think Richard, coming from Tyrone, and where we all take our football serious, but Tyrone, there's that bit more age that he couldn't understand how certain boys weren't giving it all and were still getting still getting their team, and he wanted maybe to put a stamp on that if you were going to play for St Unions this year, you were going to earn it, and you were going to earn it by training hard and giving it all and being loyal to the team. So maybe that's why he stayed loyal to the players.
You suspected more 15 or 16 would do that, John?
Well, absolutely, Charlie. You would have thought that. So, it is a bit strange. And I don't know, I know Brendan was saying that the game was always there, and maybe when the game's always there and you're not chasing it, and, you maybe get caught up in it at the thing, and you're giving trust to the boys that are still on and they're doing their job, and you might think, well, if someone else comes on, he might know his job. But you think, as Francie said, no one doesn't make switches, Charlie. You always bring subs on, even if you're winning by 2 or 3 points, or if you're behind by 3 2 or 3 points, you make subs. No man can go 60 minutes, and when you've got good enough subs there, you should really bring them on. So that definitely, whether they got caught in the headlights and they just froze and maybe didn't think.
Yeah.
That can happen again. Maybe they're not. But
must have a couple of handy frees too as well. John, I think the goal was lucky. And I think that unhinged Niamh Conlon, but left-footed free taker would be another issue.
Absolutely.
The four teams in the semi all have comfortable free takers left and right, and again, and even down to the last kick. And I hate that it's put on that, because if you on a 1 point game, any missed opportunity is the difference. And I know everybody looks at that last kick from Patton. I've never seen Patton hit long range.
No.
He doesn't really do it.
No.
I know that nobody knew what to do. It was a difficult one.
Well, there was a long discussion between himself and Niall as Sean made his way up. And at one stage you thought he's not going to come the full way and whatever. I mean, I was speaking to Niall afterwards. I didn't indulge him or even asked him what were him and Sean talking about. But it looked as if he was thinking, no, I'll take it. And then Sean wanted to take it in one thing and another.
But I think on that, Charlie, I think Enda said it was the last play, so there was no, once the ball was kicked,
that's it. It was all over.
Yeah, so there was no, if I went short to Brendan, it was going to blow. So
no,
I think
somebody's going to have to.
Well, someone said to me, Cherry, I said these postmortems and everyone has an opinion and everyone wants to chat and they can say, but a man that I would respect, now I won't give his name, but he said to me, he pointed it out at the start of the year. He says St John's need a left-footed free taker, and he said it cost us last year against Gweedore in the park with that free at the end where Niall hit off the post. And he said it possibly cost us because remember Niall had the free before the end. He went with the outside boot. It was a kind of a Hail Mary shot. He was well out in the wing, but maybe if Jamie Doherty or a left-footed kicker, it would have been far easier for a left-footed kicker. So these wee things come back, Charlie, and it's do you put everything on developing a left-footed free taker now next year?
Have they got a left-footed player? I mean, there's none in the starting lineup.
Well, James Kelly's left-footed, but I know he's young. Jamie Doherty's left-footed, but he's a sub. But I don't know.
It's a big commitment. It's not again you can just make a player unless he's got it in him.
He's confident.
Unless he's even a good for take.
Just before we leave it, Brent, Niamh Conlon are back in the final for the third year in a row. You got to hand it to them because we know how difficult it is to get the finals and won finals in Donegal. They've come back from two huge disappointments. And against Kilcar and Gweedore, you got to say well done to them, don't you?
They're winning the majority of their championship games, and you got to say that they'll beat most teams in Donegal. I think the problem for Niamh Conlon is now, and they've just been a bit unlucky, that particularly the last one, you think about it, Kilcar should have won Ulster. Very easy could have won Ulster against an All-Ireland capable Slaughtneil team. We could have back-to-back Ulster teams, and they were the two teams that would have beat. Yeah, Niamh Conlon, and as much as you look at it and say they were well beaten in both finals, they were beaten by two brilliant teams. Two of the best club teams we've seen in a long time.
Yeah.
And it's very difficult now. Going back to our time when me and John played, we lost two finals and we were going into the third. And I remember the pressure being on us. But I was thinking about coming up in the car. It was very difficult because we were expected to win those finals, and the final became us against the final nearly.
Yeah.
Now Niamh Conlon are going on underdogs. Now, in many ways, does that take a bit of pressure off them? The only fear for them would be they've been so well beaten in the last two finals. So there must be a lot of fear. Have they changed enough? Have we seen enough of them this year to think that they can take this Gweedore team? I haven't seen it anyway. And the problem is with that tactic that they play, if you're going to go and unhinge Gweedore and have a go at them, you have to have a team that can change tactics and go for Gweedore. Yeah. And how Niamh Conlon play and how they've played now since basically 2005 means that they play that very reserved game. They look to counter attack, and that's what Gweedore do. But Gweedore are much better at it. They're better than everybody at it.
Yeah.
That's not taken away from Niamh Conlon. So if it becomes a counter attacking game, there's only be one winner. How Niamh Conlon can win this final, they got to come with something new, and to do that just for one game is difficult here. But they got to really get about Gweedore, try and unhinge how Gweedore play, and really not get Gweedore in the lead. As we've seen with Kilcar the last day, once Gweedore get in the lead and they're breaking, you see McNeely's flicking on the ball, all that pace. They're very hard to pin back. The big fear from Niamh Conlon would be if Gweedore get a goal or get a couple of points up and then sit on them, then you're thinking, right, we're already in a lot of trouble here. And that's what Niamh Conlon have to at least stay in the game to give himself a chance to win it.
Francie, I talked to Martin Regan after the game, and we're going to hear a clip from him, but he brought up the issue of Kilcar hammering them. I said to him about, this last couple of years, you didn't really go for it, and I mean, I think that's fair comment. They didn't go for it. And he said, yeah, but, back 2 years ago or 3 years ago, you were hammered by Kilcar. So that's part of a mindset for them. But Brendan's right. You're not going to win a game by scoring 8 or 9 points against Gweedore because they're going to score more than that. Now, Gweedore, funnily enough, in terms of scores, had the least number of scores of the four teams, but they had the most goals, which made the difference. A plan for Glenties to...
It's going to need to be a big plan, being honest about it. I just think Gweedore, like, you know, not running down or saying anything bad about Niamh Connell, but going into this final now, there, as Brendan says, they need to come up with something new. I don't know what you can come up with. Kilcar, the juggernaut, came with this running game. You know, they weren't able to get in. They didn't even create a goal chance against Gweedore the last day. Gweedore are brilliantly set up. You know, they've so much pace in their team. I don't know where Glenties are trying to unhinge it. Maybe the 2-man full forward line and kick on high ball and look to get goals off that. I don't know. It'll be an interesting 2 weeks now to come up with a game plan. You know, the last 2 finals they came up with, one against Kilcar was ultra defensive and they didn't get enough scores. Last year they went in against Gweedore. Something similar to what probably is going this year, where Gweedore were being hard to break down and they got 1-7. The goal being the last kick of the game, 7 points they got. So they need to come up with something new, something different. And maybe hope that Gweedore have an off day, something similar to what the Bundoran game. But I think the Bundoran game for Gweedore was the fright that they needed, and I think they kicked on from there.
Charlie, no, you know, we started off here and we were, you know, focusing on St Juniors because I'm St Juniors and Brendan, and you know, and that's, you know, not being disrespectful to Niamh Connell, but you know, we were, but like Charlie, they're a very good team. As Brendan said, they're maybe a wee bit unlucky now that they've come up against maybe a very good Kilcar team and a Gweedore team. But look at them players, Charlie. Niamh Connell won no county championship. The first county championship was 2005. You know what I mean? How many? They've won 3 championships since then. How many county finals have they been in? Like them players there. Glenties and Niamh Connell, nothing. They're the best players that they've ever had. Them boys are, you know, should be up on pedestals. And Glenties, because that, you know, Anthony Thompson, Leo, Owen Wade, you know, them boys, McDyer that have been there, Brick, you know, like them boys have been brilliant for that club. Like, you know, they've never had success like that before, and they might never have it again. And people will give out to them about losing finals. That's easy to say, but them boys have given everything to that club, and you know they should be so proud of them. And you know they can do no more. They're in another county final.
That's right.
They've given so much.
Funny, you're right, but
so
I can make the point to Martin about when things were iffy, that the older boys really came up. There was one move where it was all of those guys from way back, and Martin said to me, "Yeah, fair enough, but
I heard that,
maybe there's too much talking about the old fellas, and there's a lot of young guys there now, like young McGettigan, who's done very well. The Dohertys, like Alton and Newland Doherty's done well. Kieran Gallagher's done well.
Like
Nathan Byrne, you know,
catch, Charlie.
fantastic,
and, you know, like leadership
you know?
like that there was brilliant. So you know, like
interesting. Right, we're going to leave it because we're going to move on to the second semi-final. Gweedore won at 38 to 12 points. They had 11 scores. Kilcar had 12. Brendan, I'm going to suggest to you that Kilcar's defending let them down because the first goal should have been avoided. That man, I think it was Cian Mulligan. Yeah. He shouldn't have been allowed to go as far as he did, and then just a simple hand pass. And the third goal shouldn't have happened because if you watch it, there was a goalkeeper plus 5 defenders and Kevin Cassidy, and he caught the ball with his back to goal and turned around, stuck it in the net. The defending was awful to give away 2 goals like that. So take away them 2 goals and they're beaten by a point, but that's not the reality of it. They did enough to win, but it's 38 to 12 points. Is that a convincing victory?
It was, John, and you know what? The 3-8 tells you a lot about modern football and counter-attack and how goals let you control the game. The goals let Gweedore control everything was happening and sucked Kilcar in. And you're right, Kilcar's defender for me was never good enough. It's what let them down in that Ulster final. You know, a few years ago, they just couldn't hold out McGuigan. They hadn't the ability to stop men. What Kilcar rely on is they score so much at the other end of the pitch that they'll always be okay, and that usually gets them away. But not the last day. They just didn't conjure any chances. And you're on about Cass put up a tweet the last day about the young boys and Brendan. I was thinking to myself, if them young boys kicked the ball more into you'd be far more devastating team. I mean, Kevin Cass is almost unplayable at full forward in Donegal football. No one ever kicks him ball in, and that was just an odd ball looped in.
Well, he was going for the point.
That's it. That's right. So
or says he was going for a point or kick it dead, like, right. You know. Yeah.
So, you know, I was looking at Cass in the first half, you know, and I think it was about 16 minutes in before he got a touch, and I think he touched it twice in the first half. He still has a big effect in the game, but I could never understand Gweedore not changing it up that wee bit more and giving it in direct them. But you've seen the pace down, how goals let you dictate the game. And as Kilcar spent all that energy pushing, trying to get points, you see McBurdy coming on out around the half forward line, trying to get in and on the ball. Because what's happening in modern football now, like Cassidy, who was a great half back for Donegal, full forward. Rory Kavanagh, one of our midfielders, full forward. Leo McClune, who was centre half back most of the time this year, full forward. Like it's a funny indictment of where football's going. I think what's happening is there's so much going on around the pitch. There's only 2 staying in, 1 or 2, and we're not producing the full forwards anymore, and we're not producing the defenders because everybody else is playing a different game. And I think that's why we're seeing that physical edge. Old players now are being asked to go on playing out of position, if you like. I suppose no one like the best player we've ever had, Murphy.
You'd have had no career if that had been going on your time, Brendan.
But just
you wouldn't have got to start.
But just on the Kevin Cassidy thing, the reason Kevin Cassidy's in the team, and I had discussion this with a lot of people, Kevin Cassidy, every time you look up, Kevin Cassidy's full forward. When the game was in Melton Pot the last day for Kilcar, where's Paddy McBurdy out looking for the ball in the loop?
Yeah.
This is the thing. Kevin Cassidy stays in. He makes peace that he only get the ball 4 or 5 times, and there's scores coming off it. You're alluded to the first ball he got was maybe at the 12th, 14th minute. He got a point. He kicked the score.
Turned on the left
you know what
foot,
I mean?
yeah.
Like, this is what he's bringing to Gidor, and he's saving himself for that. He knows he's making peace that every time they look up, and if someone leaves a 1v1 situation inside, the ball's kicked in. But if it's not, if their other teams are playing with a sweeper, it's not kicked in, and he's a focal point all the time.
I just think, Francie, with that, there's so much possession going on in the game now and slow build up. Even against Corofin, he was the one player that was going to unhinge them in that semi-final, and I was down looking and saying, give him the ball. I just looking at first half last night when Kilcar had their blanket defence back, the ball was never going in. And I think if Gidor did go a bit more long, they would get so much more scores out of him in particular. But listen, I don't think they're going to want for scores, but that's another tactic.
No, should they be concerned, John? Because I mean they won by 5 points, so it sounds silly to be even talking about this, but they only scored 8 points in the game. They mightn't score 3 goals the next day. Maybe they'll score 4 or 5, but they may not. Glenties may, Niamh Conall may defend better than Kilcar did. Well, should they be a wee bit concerned there?
I don't know. No, I think Brendan's point is very valid, and it's probably the best point. Goals allowed them to control the game.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
And they came at perfect times.
Perfect times because they were 4-2 down, and then they got the first goal, and that gave them a wild boost. And you can see the Kilcar head strapped to the way they said, "Oh no, we've given away a goal." This was what we didn't want to do. You know, because Kilcar probably had the better start. You know, they were going. They kicked them nice. Paddy kicked that super. The wee boy McLean kicked 2 screamers. You know, so Kilcar were going rightly. I remember the first 3 or 4 attacks Gidor had, Kilcar stripped them. You know, now they mightn't have got scores, but probably everything was going for them. But then the killer goal, like as you say, it should never happen. If you watch it back on TV, Mickey Hegarty just let him go past him, and it just, you know. But
you got to foul him there, don't you?
You got to foul him, and even it's the same for Darrell Wheel's goal. You know, he probably should have been fouled too, but no, they were good moves. But no, but the goals allowed Gidor to control the game, and they were always in control. They were always at 3, 4, 5 points up, and just let them do it at their own pace. So they weren't rushing anything. They didn't have to go for points. They were just, this hand up now is a great thing, and you know, let's slow the game down, and everyone goes, oh geez, they have it now. And this is, Jerry, I don't know where that's coming from, but you can only do that when you're winning. You can't do that when you're losing. But once they, it's a great signal for them that we're in charge, we're confident. The other team goes, oh, here they go, and we have to go now and get the ball off them. And Eamon McGee puts the hand up and they start hand passing. Like it's great for Gidor. It's a great thing. We're in charge here. We're in control. Come and get it off.
But John,
you know what I mean?
But what Kilcar were doing all year was inviting teams onto them and stripping them. And that was the idea that, you know, more or less if you want to come and get the ball now, they were trying to just pick them off then by putting the hand up, like come out now and strip us with the ball, because that's where all their Kilcar scores were coming all year. It wasn't like they weren't breaking down blanket defences. It was them getting counter attacks, like the first 3 balls you alluded to in the first couple of minutes. That's where their scores were coming from. And when Gidor were doing that, Gidor were more or less saying to them, listen, here, let's go, come on out and take a ball off us, trying to, you know, open more gaps for them.
But if you look at the end, Charlie, the other way, like you'll see teams saying, oh, you know, St. Julian's or who Glenties or no one else can get goals against Kilcar, and we got 3 goals against Kilcar. But if you watch them back on the TV, like Kane Mulligan, it was just Darrell Wheel hand pass. It was just half a yard ahead of Mulligan, and he just got it, you know. But that took quality. It was the right pass at the right time. He had the pace, and he seen him. You know, the second goal, like Eamon McGee's pass was brilliant. You know, that takes quality. Other teams don't have that. Like Eamon got it, and the love his hand pass, just the wrong side of the man, right into his path, and your man buried. Like other teams, Gidor have quality. You know, other teams say, oh, we can maybe, why can't we? But you don't have quality like that there. Some of the Gidor play at the right time was just brilliant. You know, after Darrell Wheel's goal, Eamon got another ball into Nisha off to McNeil straight over the bar. Quality, like the quality, and not every team has that.
No, you're right, John. And the other thing, off the bench, Brendan, big difference what they did. I mean, they were winning the game, but they had quality to bring off. They brought Gavin McBride off the bench, Peter McGee off the bench, Ginger McFadden off the bench. You know,
so all experienced players. Certainly, I was up at their under 21s. You know, my better half Gidor, and I get pulled along to all types of games now. I don't have to support certain teams, but you know, I looked at their under 21s certainly, and the ease at which they won Ulster there 2 years ago. You push that into those players you just mentioned: Christopher Sweeney, Neil McGee, Eamon, McNeilish, Cass. and you inject 6 or 7 players that, you know, they won it at a canter. They've been coming through. Now, the rest of the county's seen this Gweedore team coming through, and we thought these boys are going to be bother soon. We didn't maybe expect it to happen when it did. They obviously were in the semi-final 2 years ago.
Yeah.
They're unlucky, so we thought it was going to come. And then lands, obviously Michael Boyd came in last year and structured them in a certain way, which made them hard to beat. So now they have this lovely mix of experience and pace and speed. And they didn't play that well this year so far, you know, and that's why a lot of people were maybe looking at Kilcar. When you think about Kilcar, had no test, they weren't beat all year.
Yeah.
And there's nothing worse than not having that tight test, you know. And Gweedore, in many ways, what happened to them in the park last week probably set them up and rejig them.
They had St Eunan's, St Michael's, they had tough games there in the group,
right.
where Kilcar didn't have that, and particularly in their group. Go
Jerry,
ahead, John.
sorry, like, I would have said, fairness to me now, I would have pointed out that Kilcar, you know, they hadn't been tested.
No,
When the test came, how would they react? And if you've seen it, Jerry, in the second half, like when they were chasing the game, Ryan McHugh had the first shot from way out on the right. It was never on. He took it on and went well wide. And Cian McGinley had 2. Cian McGinley kicked 2 afterwards, the same place. Now, that Kilcar don't do that, but they were chasing the game, Jerry. You know, when you're chasing the game, bit of desperation. When they're controlling games, which they have been all the time, they work it back, they get it to Paddy on the loop, it's over the bar, big score. Like Kilcar, when you look at it, Jerry, Kilcar scoring let them down. They only scored 12 points.
That's right.
You know, they've been putting up cricket scores all year, so 12 points, that wasn't enough. So, you know, that's where they lost.
All right,
it.
we're going to leave it there, boys. We'll talk more next week about the final, the head-to-head with Gweedore, and Niamh Conaill repeat of last year's final. Just senior championship relegation playoffs. Dunlow 3-9, Ardra 2-10. And in the other one, I saw the other one, Four Masters were too strong for Malin. 2-13 to 1-7, the one to score. So it's Ardra against Malin this weekend. The winners will stay in the senior championship. The losers will go down to intermediate. And a big sigh of relief there for Dunlow and Four Masters, Francie.
Yeah, and listen, suppose that Dunlow result, you know, it was 3-9 to 5 points. You know, and I think Dunlow started making substitutions, just giving boys game, and Ardra come back into the game, and they just won by the 2 points. Then you know, so could have come back to haunt them. And Four Masters are a bit too strong just for Malin, so it goes down now to this weekend now. So it'll be Ardra, who got promoted to Division 1.
That's right.
Are now in a relegation playoff. You know, they've lost a lot of men. You know, through injuries and stuff. They got top men like Paddy McGrath and CJ Malloy, and these, but then they've missed. You know, players, the fringe players have been playing all year. So it'll be a big game this weekend. And listen, playing Malin, like, you know, in a one-off game, you know, if the soccer's on this week, I don't know what'll happen. What will happen, you know, but Ardra know they're in the game this weekend.
Yeah. Would it be a disaster? Is that overstating it if Ardra went down in intermediate football after getting back into Division 1, Brendan?
It would be certainly. I suppose I always look at this from the perspective of Donegal. You know, a good Ardra team's going to produce a couple of county players and have done over the years. Four Masters the same. You know, you think of the input of players from those clubs over my time, and when those teams drop that low, they stop producing that type of player. You know, I want all those teams up competing, and it's just that thing of, if it's got that football heartland where them places are, you know they'll come back. And while they're not operating at that level, you'll see you don't get the benefit back to Donegal. Donegal needs all these clubs, you know, coaching guys, playing good senior championship games, and then pushing on the Donegal team.
Yeah. Intermediate semi-finals. Intermediate championship has been a cracker so far, and we've said this, I'm repeating myself, every week we've talked about how close the matches have been, how close the groups were. When it got to the quarter-final stage, people would sort one another out. Niamh Breed looked to be dead and gone, Francie, until he begs against St Nolls, who'd come back against Niamh Columba the week before. But Niamh Breed, to their credit, didn't throw in the towel, came back, and St Nolls just hung on.
Yeah, very. You know, that's the supposed thing about the intermediate. I think we're all on a match. There's no big hammers in it, you know. And just that St Nolls Niamh Breed game was a derby game, and listen, Niamh Breed haven't been getting the quarter final for the last 3 years. They've always got beaten the quarter final, getting to the semi final. They got on a third stager, which probably for them is a good thing. But probably when they look back at it, the getting beat by a point, suppose it'll be hard to take, you know. But listen, St Nolls are, you know, a good team. Like, you know, they were in promotion, looking for promotion to Division 1 this year, between them and Ballyshannon and Killybegs all year for the second spot. You know, Ardra ran away with the league. So listen, St Nolls, just I think with their firepower, you know, probably just seen the game out, you know.
Yeah. Brendan, Cloughaneely 14 points, Rua, Ballyshannon. You got your 14 points against Rua, Ballyshannon 20 years ago. I'll remind you that this year again. Time flies when you're having fun, as they say. Myself and Francie were up at that game in Glenfant. Terrible conditions overhead. The pitch, I have to say, the pitch was fantastic. Stood up brilliantly to it. But Cloughaneely looked to be in command. Then they looked as if they were gone. I think it went 13-10 in Rua's favour well into the game, and I thought, I was commentating for Ocean FM, myself and Josh McMullen, it's gone. And Cloughaneely come back then and kicked 3 points to level up, and then they went behind again, and then they got a late equaliser, then went to extra, blah blah blah. Young Killian Goller had a chance to finish it off, but Division 1 team Cloughaneely have struggled in every single game apart from the Niamh Ultan one to get to this stage, and now they're facing a replay, which will be their third game in what, Francie? 10 days. As they get through to the final, it'll be their fourth game in 13 or 14 days. But a great game for both teams and a fair result. Are you surprised that a Division 1 team has not gone through easier in the Intermediate Championship than Cloughaneely have found this?
I just think there's different levels, Charlie, you know what I mean? If you look at this season, what Bundoran did coming up, if you look what Mulford did, you know, they're just recently coming up from intermediate. You know, yeah. I have a wee baby and I'm in the middle of making another one, so I'm not that well up on the intermediate championship, Charlie. But like, if you think about again, you know, proper football places, you know, and you think of Cloughaneely and you think of Ballyshannon and the history there and how them teams want to get back up.
Yeah.
And they say the bar's been set very high, so all these teams need to get their act together and come back up. And that's what I'm saying, get back up that level, they compete at the top. But you look at the great work that's been done by Bundoran and by Milford, you know, they're setting the bench in for teams that can come up from that intermediate level and rise back up and be competitive again in championship.
Yeah. John, it's a cracker of a game. They're going to replay now on Wednesday night again. But there's been a lot of talk about the CCC arranging this replay for Wednesday night, because I spoke to people from both teams after the game at Glenfin. Both were keen to leave it until next weekend, but the CCC have decided to go ahead. I think you feel that's a bit unfair on them to ask them to play and then play a final.
I do, Charlie, and you know, I've been very complimentary towards the CCC. Difficult job, and they've done a tremendous job, in fairness. But this one just doesn't seem to add up, Charlie, because there's no rush on it. Like in 2012 and 2014, Donegal got the All-Ireland final, so then everything was cramped, and we played a Wednesday night against Kilcar in the third playoff in 2012, and there was loads of Wednesday night games back in them 2 years. But Charlie, the Ulster game's not to the 3rd of November, so there's no reason why they couldn't play the replay this weekend.
And the final the following Saturday
in O'Donnell Park or whatever. You know, people are looking for a double header with the senior final, but I think in fairness to the county board, they would lose too much revenue, and you can't blame them for that day. The intermediate, suppose, deserves its own day, but it's crying out for that, Charlie. I just don't see the reason for the rush. You know, with so many players, like I think Cloughaneely have 9 players.
9 players away.
And Ballyshannon probably have 3 or 4 students they're bound to have, Terry. And it's a wee bit strange for all the good work that the CCC have done. It just doesn't really add up to me. There's no logic to play it on Wednesday night. But listen,
I think the mindset was the final's going to be on the 13th.
Right, that's it. Well,
I think maybe that was it. Francie, it is a wee bit unfair to ask them to play again, isn't it?
It is a wee bit unfair. But I suppose if you want to come from the CCC side of things, they've sent out email at the start of the year. Quarter-finals, semi-finals, replays are going to be during the week. Nobody argued with it until you're in that situation.
It is an issue.
Exactly. So listen, suppose if you're managing both teams, you'd be looking for as long a time as possible. You know, and with all the players available, like Cloughaneely have 9 players away, and Dublin. It's a big ask. You know, work stuff that to come down for a Wednesday, and even you do your work on the Wednesday to drive down in a car, then to get on play a game of football in this time of year. You know, where it's going to be soft and heavy. You know, probably an odd man will get injured now. You know, so listen, it's not ideal, but listen, we have to move on with it. It's set in stone now, and the 2 teams have to get ready for it.
Still too cramped, Charlie. Still got to pull the club more in the summer, you know, and have it finished up maybe end of September. That needs to be county final time. We're going in now to kind of winterish weather. You're thinking about Kilcar and that, and heavy pitches and certain teams and that. Football should be played when the weather's still good, championship in particular.
Well, we just don't seem to be able to get this balance, Brendan, between county football and club football right. I mean, they're doing their best to get some kind of a shape on it, but as John said, it's very cramped this year. I mean, the intermediates, for example, not a break. The seniors now at least get this weekend off to prepare for their final, but the intermediates are just 5 weekends in a row, and that's it. Anyway, that replay's on Convoy starting at 7:30 Wednesday night, and the winners will play St Knowles in McCool Park at 4 o'clock on Sunday, and that will be preceded by the Intermediate B, and I'll just tell you who's going to be playing in that. In Intermediate B, it's Cloughaneely. Their reserve team are through, and they take on Red Hughes in that particular game. staying with the intermediate in Convoy on Saturday evening, Burt beat Neavolton by the skin of their teeth, 8 points to 7. So that means now that Neavolton play Downings. The winners will stay in intermediate football. The losers will be relegated to junior football.
Just before you leave the intermediate, Charlie, I got a comment there on Facebook or somewhere from your brother, Mark, down in Falcarra. So he says, you're sitting on the fence all year. He says, are you going to tip Clockenleedy or not for any of these titles?
Who, me?
You?
I'm here to sit on the fence. That's why I'm separated from you. This is the fence side here, John.
That's your answer now, Mark. Anyway, still sitting on the fence.
He knows exactly what my view is. Junior semi-finals, Convoy, Buncrana beating Convoy. I have the wrong score down here. They beat them by more than a point. There was four points in it.
110 to 9.
110 to 9. I've given Convoy a goal there. And Letterkenny Gales, comfortable winners over at Narassa. So, John, no surprise really, is there? Buncrana, Letterkenny Gales. I know there was other teams that were not that far away from those two, but those two looked the obvious ones from early days.
Aye, Charlie, and I was at them 2 games out in O'Donnell Park on Saturday, and they were entertaining, you know, but Buncrana had a wee bit too much quality for Convoy, although Convoy came prepared, and you know, some decent players. We were chatting there before, like young McGill taking the frees at 15 was very good, and you know, Packy Mealy tried hard, and you know, Convoy tried hard. You know, Lawrence has done a great job with them this year, but Buncrana just a wee bit too strong. I know Jigger went off at half time, but you know, John Campbell I think scored 1-7, and Keelan McGonigal, and they could bring on Ryan Bradley, and you know, just a wee bit too much quality for Convoy. And you know, Buncrana looked good, Cherry, and you know, Owen Doherty came on in the second half and was very good. He won a free and kicked over 2 points straight away, so he was a big help when he came off the bench. But Cherry, you know, fairness, I was you know, impressed enough with the Gales. I thought they were, you know, they're very young, Charlie. They're full of energy and they're full of running, and you know, they were just had too much for Narassa. Now, after 10 minutes, I thought, where Narassa going to score in this game? Just they looked totally, you know, out of their depth. They just couldn't get up the field, even up to the past 45. But in fairness, they stuck at it, Charlie, and the battle, gave everything they had.
Which they've done in every game.
And their credit. And you know, we were on about Declan last week, but like his kickouts in the first half, Charlie, were tremendous. You know, he was finding the Rasta man and pockets all the time, and fair play to him. Now, maybe there's a question mark over the goal. He got a hand hit. Maybe he could have stopped it, but you're not going to criticise a man at 54.
You supporting the Gales in the final?
Well, no comment, Brendan.
You shut down the fence there. Okay, he's taking out of you.
But no, the Gales were good, Charlie, and I say they're young and energetic, and you know, probably Buncrana will go on as favourites, but the Gales have plenty of good players, and I think it'll be a very good final, and it'll be very close.
John Campbell, Conor McBurdy shootout.
That's exactly, you know, I think it'll come down to both. Conor McBurdy scored 1-7 the weekend, and John Campbell scored 1-7 out of 110. You know, 2 good full forwards, 2 men, like, you know, both hit the frees as well for the teams as well, you know. But I suppose a big thing to me for Buncrana was the keeper, Harry Doherty, coming back. You know, playing Sean Parker in goals as Harry Doherty. He's a good goalkeeper, you know, and probably someone that Declan Bonner will look out. You know, he's either played soccer, he's an Ireland underage as well. Like, so he was a big difference to them as well with the kickouts. He's able to find, you know, what do they call him, Keelan McGonigal and kickouts, and you know, I think that's where the game's going to wear down to now. We small margins they got there, and suppose that's on the Gales. Another Sean Graham's another good goalkeeper as well for the Letterkenny Gales. So that's going to be it'll be an interesting game. Just on both forward lines, we're chatting about blanket defence and stuff in both teams, Buncrana and Letterkenny Gales, both good forward lines, like you know. So I think it'll be an entertaining game. A
shootout, Brendan, exactly what we want to see with good forwards.
You know what, that competition, Charlie, I followed Newcombe Kill 2 years ago and Red Hughes last year. Yeah. And you know, they went all the way, one game from Croke Park, they won Ulster. Right. You know, magical runs. Those things really lift the county. It's such a different thing going into Ulster. You know, you're representing Donegal and that. So as the lads were saying, the Gales and Buncrana looked like they could have 2 rattles at Ulster, and so close the last few years. You often get a team, Charlie, maybe that finds himself in a position but they shouldn't. I think that's what happened with that Eastgate team that Red Hughes came up against last year. So very positive for everyone's that they could go give Ulster a rattle as well.
And important for Buncrana to get back into intermediate football if they can. I mean, it's a big town down there. Gales are competing with St Eunan's, obviously, for players in Letterkenny. It'll be a huge thing for them to get into intermediate football. But for Buncrana, a lot of people would feel they shouldn't really be in junior football, they should be at a higher level. Easier said than done, Brendan.
I know that it's very hard to look at the size of a town and think how good the team should be. You know, you look at somewhere like Kilcar and small areas, you know, it's more about what's happening in the town. You know, obviously Cockhill, Hearts, loads of soccer and shown, you know, big soccer hurdle. And every time there's a report about a Gaelic team there's something else about a soccer team doing something. There's always overlapping. And I think at the minute soccer seems to be number one in Buncrana. But listen, they've popped up a few times before, Charlie, and certainly with the population there, if they get it right underage and through the schools, they've certainly got the population to kick on and get back up at least in the intermediate.
Yeah. But as Brendan said there, Jerry, you know, it's funny, like that Buncrana team would have bet Union's would be minor final long ago, Francie, 4 or 5 years ago.
It was John Campbell, Jigger,
so maybe it's about 4 or 5 years ago. You know, they were a good team, but like a good minor team, unless you have a structure there and a few more experienced players to come through. Like our players on that minor team were in a county semi-final pushing Glantis to a point where these boys are still playing junior football. Yeah, you know, so you can't build a club on one team. You know, you need a couple of players coming all the time, and you know that's what Buncrana need to do now. They need to just get it all together and keep producing players year after year, and keep, you know, that, as you know, they probably need to go up to intermediate and maybe get back up into Division 2 and that, because you can't just rely on one team to win a minor championship out of the blue and think that you're going to have a team forever. Absolutely. It doesn't work.
But just on that, Buncrana, like that, you know, I think too, Buncrana doing well is good for Inishowen, the Gaelic teams in Inishowen too, to keep pushing them on as well. You know, as Brendan says, alluded to, look, at the end of the day, what you're looking for is the teams going well and getting 2 or 3 county players out of it, and that's what we're looking to do. You know, so you know, Buncrana is a big town as well, and you know, you probably want to entice as many men as possible to play the Gaelic, you know, and get playing then maybe up for Donegal.
Yeah, that final's on Saturday, the junior final, France, isn't it?
Saturday,
O'Donnell Park.
Well, hopefully we'll be at Donald Park. John's hoping anyway. So
yeah, venue hasn't been right. I'm going to go back to the senior championship because we have a couple of clips that I want to show, and I'm going to start with Martin Regan. I talked to him after that game and basically said to him that you know, tight game, but at the end of the day they were leading by a point, and really at the end of the day that's all that counts. And well, he didn't disagree with me. Martin Regan.
Martin, a great game of football, and it's always good to come out just on the right side of it, even if it's only by a point.
Yeah, only by a point, and look at its fine margins. Patton missed a free kick there at the end, whereas McGettin got his, and on another day we could have lost that game by a point. And that's the way our games with units have been in the last 10 years. They're nip and tuck, and they could go either way. And look at, it's unfortunate for Sean to miss that last kick, because I thought his kicking today was an absolute exhibition. His kickouts, they were just on the button. We felt we had a lot of work done for the units kickouts, but look at, he destroyed us on the units kickouts. So it's unfortunate that he had to miss that free at the end. But look at it, was 50 yards out. It wasn't an easy kick either, but look, we're delighted today to get over the line.
That was Martin Regan talking to me after Niamh Connell's victory over St Eunan's, and I spoke to Oran McNeilis then after the Gweedore game, and again always very sensible in his perspective of how games have gone, Oran, and quick to point out that they'd gone into the game as underdogs, so that they were very well pleased to come out of it on the right side and into another final.
Oran, fairly content looking Gweedore squad leaving the pitch here. Job well done against a very talented Kilcar side.
Yeah, I suppose we were underdogs coming in here today, and you know, that's just the way we took that game today. We had to give it everything, and you know, Kilcar, one of the best teams in Donegal in the last number of years, and we just knew we had to lift our game compared to the last couple of weeks. You know, we've kind of strolled into the semi-final stages, and probably third or fourth year we never really got going, but you know, we knew we had to really lift it today, and thankfully we did.
Oran McNeilis talking to me there. Just to confirm, the Senior B semi-finals at the weekend, St Eunan's had a comfortable victory over Glenfin, and Kilcar beat Niamh Connell by a point. I was surprised, no disrespect to Kilcar, I saw that Glenties team a few times, and I saw them beat Gweedore in O'Donnell Park the week before. I didn't think Kilcar would beat them, Francie.
Neither did I, tell you the truth, because I know Kilcar were in Termon's group, and they both played down in Towney the last game to see who won the group, and they beat Termon by a point. So listen, I thought I've seen Glenties twice this year in the reserves, and I thought they were very strong as well, so it's a bit of a shock, alright, but listen, that's championship for you.
Yeah. What can you tell us about the C Championship, John, because you're involved in that? It's the finals, St Eunan's McCool's, is it?
St Eunan's McCool's, Charlie, there's I shouldn't be laughing, but there's only 4 teams in it, Charlie. It's the third teams from McCool's, St Eunan's, Glen Finn and Glen Swilly. Glenty's pulled out this year, so I think we're in the final against McCool, so we bet them easy enough in the earlier rounds. Now I shouldn't be saying because they could catch us, but Jason Quigley was playing that day.
Good left foot on him.
Good left foot, and tight boy. I wouldn't want to get in there. Give him a few slaps, Jerry. It's good. I think I'll stay well clear of him if we get to play. But no, Jerry, it's it's our boys now. They've won it the last few years, and they've got a good group of players there. Some young boys and some older players. But
any sign of a date for it, or when it's
supposed to be this Saturday, Charlie?
Oh,
so now we text said today 2:00, but hopefully in Glen Swilly. But now they said it could be 12:00, so we don't know.
In Glen Swilly,
hopefully, aye.
More championships, John.
And then
we'll
get the good warm up for the reserves then for the following week. So I might. Mick Martin's looking for me back.
St Eunan's, we should have mentioned St Eunan's reserves. We mentioned Kilcar through St Eunan's, Francie. That's a very strong reserve.
St Eunan's,
they're the defending champions, aren't they?
Yeah, they're a very strong team. Listen, in fairness, they won the league at the Cantor as well. So St Eunan's are a very strong reserve team, and listen, the final's a final, but you expect St Eunan's to win it.
Yeah, in the last 10 years, Naomh Conaill have been in 6 finals. They've only won 2 of them.
2010, 2015.
2010, 2015. Lost in 18, lost in 17, lost in 12, and lost in 2009. So they have been probably the most consistent in terms of, in the last 10 years, of getting to finals.
Yeah, no, they have. That's a credit to them. And as John alluded to there, they've been, probably coming up against 2 good teams in Kilcar and the last 2 finals, Kilcar and Gweedore, and probably unfortunate. But listen, that's where they're at, and it's great for them to get back to another final. And suppose at the end of the day, they'll be thinking they want to win this final, So listen, Gweedore standing on the road now of a third final.
Yeah. Another big game on Sunday, and thanks again to Kelly Centra here at the Mountaintop for their support, as always, is in the Burn Road, where the Termon ladies are taking on St McCartans from Tyrone, Francie, are they? Tyrone side. Yeah. Ryan McMenamin and Sean the Decent O'Donnell, respective team managers there. And earlier this week, Chris McNulty went down to the Burn Road and had a chat with 2 of the stalwarts of the Termon ladies, 2 ladies who've been around for quite some time, Maureen Mo O'Donnell and Emer Gallagher. You'll be able to catch that actually from about 7:00 on Tuesday evening. So by the time you see this, it'll be up on the website, the full interview. But let's just hear a minute or 2 of the interview Chris had with the 2 girls, Maureen and Emer.
Take me back to the start of where it all began for you.
Well, what do we see? It's a long time here, and asking me to go back a long time in my memory. So I suppose this current campaign, probably 2000, you're looking at 2010. So I suppose in me, that's when we won the first Ulster final. That's when I suppose the seat was so in our head that we could actually be a real professional outfit here. We could go on maybe won in All Ireland, which is something that every player in their own club, it really is a dream at that stage, So when we won in 2010 Ulster, I will never forget the game. I think most of the reporters on the day had run us off, and Geraldine got a goal in the dying seconds of the game, and what do you know, we were Ulster champions for the first time ever. And at that stage, I think that's when the belief set in. We then came down, we got a fixture at the Burn Road, and All Ireland semi-final, which was a huge occasion for us, massive for the club alone, and the people in the club and the people supporting us, and even for ourselves as players. And I suppose we were very green maybe going into that, because such a massive stage, we were on that day in front of a lot of people, and a very, very young team, that were just coming along. But we only lost out by 2 or 3 points in the day. We were hugely disappointed, to say the least, but at that stage, we had a chat after the game, do you remember? And what we'd said then was that we can actually go one way, And it wasn't until 4 years later that dream actually became a reality for us. And I suppose we've been pushing on since.
That's Chris McNulty talking to Maureen Mo O'Donnell and Emer Gallagher. So that's it from another programme. We'll be back next week to look forward to the Senior Championship final in more depth. By that stage, we'll know who won the intermediate and the junior, or maybe not. Could be draws, and we'll have to come back another day. But anyway, thanks to Brendan Devenney for joining us today. Much appreciated, Brendan. Francie and John, as always, thank you very much. And we'll talk to you next weekend again. Thanks for joining us.
The Donegal Sport Hub Donegal Daily Championship Podcast, Brought to you in association with Kelly Centra, multi-award winning store, Mountaintop Letterkenny, providing 24-hour service 7 days a week.